So regression test is actually your lifesaver. Okay? This will keep you from making mistakes you don't even know of. Right? Then you have to update documentation to reflect the change. So update the prologue of each module to reflect the change. All right. So here, the key thing is, you make a change, you have to test. Okay. Most of us think when we are trying to fix something, we are very fixated on the thing we are trying to fix. Right. So, but a software system is a very intertwined system. If you fix a bug, you may actually break other parts or introduce new bugs. Okay? So you have to test the fix, also have to test the whole system, and make sure that it passes all the regression tests. Remember, every time we make a fix, make a change, we have to run the regression test suite. This is why your regression test suite has to be automated. Has to be automated. So if you are using a language like Java, then you can do this by JUnit. So basically, all the tests you run should be replayable with JUnit. You may say, no problem. I mean, so I don't really want to use JUnit. Yeah, I will run it every time. This is okay if you have, a handful of test cases. Is it not okay if you have a lot of test cases and also as your software system become bigger? Okay, and other people have to run your regression. It's impossible to do manual testing. Okay, it has to be regression test based. So the key here is actually in the parentheses regression test. This will keep you from making mistakes and introduce new bugs to your system. Keep the quality stable. Keep your software quality stable. Passing all the regression tests does not mean you didn't introduce new bugs. It's just ensure all the functionality you have tested before with the test cases in the regression test suite, they all passed, and this functionality got tested. Okay? If your regression test suite is weak, well, it become a very leaky net, doesn't catch any fish. Okay? It doesn't mean that there are no fish in the pond. So essentially, the quality of your regression test suite actually has a major impact on the quality of your software system today. Okay? So that's why test-driven development today, starting now, is going to be your lifesaver. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of quality time with your code, like it or not. I know most of you guys just crazy about loving programming and everything, right? But this really means that you are going to spend all your weekend and nights working with your system, working your software system, if you don't do good regression test suite. If you're not doing well in testing, your productivity will be very low, I can tell you that. Because you are basically trying to clean up after yourself all day. Okay, this is a warning I would like to give you before you get out of the 300. If you don't do well in your testing, not using unit testing, not compiling regression test suite, you are going to spend a lot of time debugging bugs that should not even be there in the first place. Okay? So each bug, okay, is going to take you hours to debug, easily, even days. Okay? So if you create one bug, that might mean your weekend is gone, or your tonight worth of sleep is gone. Okay? Testing. 75% of our time is about testing and debug. Okay? If you don't do well there, you can think about it. Okay? You can think about that. That is essentially going to be hours of your time each day. Okay? For adaptive or perfective maintenance, pretty much the same thing. Here you just don't have a defect report, you just have a change in requirement. This is the kind of thing that's good because your customer is demanding new features, which means your software system is useful, which means they're willing to pay money for it. Okay? This is good news. I mean, so actually, if you are receiving defect reports, you are receiving new requirements, you should feel good about it. Otherwise, there's only one way out, that is forget about your software, move on to different things. Okay? If nobody using your software system, your system is going to receive no bug report. You're going to receive no requirement for change. Okay? In that case, your software is dead already. Okay? Then you're not going to get your money. All right? What if the programmer has not tested the fix adequately? Well, somebody needs to get it tested. That's why today, when you are trying to fix a bug, you want to submit your change. Typically, it has to be reviewed by several other people on your team. You're not going to be able to, if in a reasonable company, you're not going to be able to submit a fix just by yourself. That would be too dangerous. That would be way too dangerous. Okay? Then your code will be reviewed, and if you haven't passed all the regression test suite, which are going to be done on your code automatically, you're not going to be able to submit your code. That is actually, this review and comment period, and also the regression test suite, are the typical thing that blocking you from submitting your code. Okay? If you're not submitting your code, today in software engineering company, if you're not submitting code, you know what that means. Okay? If you are a developer, your job is to code, submit code. If you're not submitting your code, you're not checking your code in the repository, you know what's going to happen. Okay? Because you are actually being measured with the amount of code, the quality of code you check in. Not the only evaluation criteria, but the major one. So posterior maintenance is actually very hard. And testing is the most critical thing. Although here it said SQA group, but very typical today, you don't have a dedicated SQA team. The SQA team is basically your development team. And more likely than not, it's also your operational team. That's why, don't be surprised if your manager hand over a beeper and say, hey, take this with you all the time. Right? So essentially, you have to be on call, on the buzzer, all day. Whenever you receive that buzz, you have to get up and do some work. Right? This is actually what's happening today. Right? So for instance, so any DevOps team you join, you are expected to actually do maintenance, development, fixing bugs, and all these good things. And also run services, metering services, right? Response to crisis when your services are down. So critically, you have to use a baseline private copy. The programmer makes changes to private copy of the code artifact and test them. So this is your team at the Git repository, maybe on GitHub or GitLab, right? Either way, or other kind of repository. You're not going to modify and check in your code directly there. You actually pull the version down into your own private repository, Then you check out the copy, work there, check in that copy, and conduct your validation unit testing and all the comprehensive tests on this copy until you are sure you want this code to be reviewed by others. You submit this for review, okay? Submit this for review. Only when they actually gave you, for instance, if you use GitLab web interface, you actually send out review request. Only when these guys send back acknowledgement and say, yes, you passed my review. Typically not. I mean, they're going to ask you to change, give you comment to change. You have to respond to this comment until you fix you satisfy all their requirements. Then they will say, yes, you can check in now. Then you get it. Then at this time, your GitLab may actually run the regression test suite on it. Once it passes, you can actually push this to the main repository. Okay? So your baseline is actually in the main repository. You work on private copy. Okay? I hope this is the process you guys has been running on your project. If you cannot articulate this process, if you go on an internship or real job, okay, you are at least can be labeled as underprepared. Okay? This is why we use GitHub in the first place. Okay, you are expected to be equipped with GitHub know-how, using GitHub to develop software and maintain software, understand the concept of private copy, understand the concept of private repository, master, branching, merging, baselines, okay? These concepts. Be able to articulate them and be able to apply them. Okay? There are some teams actually test you on your GitHub know-how by doing it. Okay? So this is not a joke. It's actually some hard skill you need to have now. If you don't have it now, today, right now, okay, you are lagging behind. You should have been using this with your code, okay, for several weeks already. Okay? If you're not using this, okay, you're not doing the job in my class. All right? The program frees the previous version as a baseline and give the modified version to SQA. Basically, your colleagues who are also programmers, but their job is to review your code. Okay? Review is done. Regression done. Done on the new code on the entire system. Then it got checked into to the master branch. That got pushed out to the customer. That will be form a new baseline. Okay, that's how you advance your baselines. Okay, if something wrong with Git, you can roll back to the previous baseline. Okay, by dates or by tag, by labels. You can say I want the version labeled with this particular tag, or I want a version on this day at this given time. Okay? Better use label than time, for sure. At least if you mess up, you have time as a unique identifier of the version you need. Okay? Time is the only thing that we pretty much can say, okay, it will give us a unique identifier because progress taking forward, right? So how do we ensure maintainability? It's definitely not a one-time effort. You essentially have to make sure you do this with maintenance in mind. For instance, in design, your information hiding. So this is really a big concept introduced by object-oriented programming. Instead of the old procedural programming like C, basically you can access any variable within the program, because you can pointer to anything, right? With object-oriented programming paradigm, you can do information hiding by basically saying that if this is labeled as private, nobody else can see it unless you use my method. Okay? Implementation, I mean, certainly make sure that provide sufficient documentation and comments. Okay? So that's why we actually force you to produce documents here in this class. Okay? Can you actually do the project we have without requirement documentation and design documents? You might, because the program is actually not that complicated. You might. However, remember our goal for you to produce this documentation is actually to make sure that you produce something that can be utilized by others. Basically, if I take your design document and give to one of your classmates, he or she should be able to carry on into the implementation flow based on your documentation. Okay? If that's the case, you did a good job with your design document. This is pretty much the requirements you will run into in work. So basically, have you written down, provide enough information through your documentation that your colleague can take over your code, your feature, right away, without having to come to you all the time? Right? That is our measure. Okay? In post-during maintenance, your goal is not to make the software worse through your maintenance effort. I don't know whether you can improve it or not. You might, but at least you should ensure that you are not degrading the quality of the code significantly. How do you do that? Regression test. Regression test. Regression test. Okay? Certainly if your regression test suite only have one test case or a few test cases, it certainly may not do the job, right? The quality of your regression test suite really determine how well your program will be maintainable or actually quality. But basically, you have to make sure that all the modules are unit tested. All the subsystems have subsystem level unit test. All the systems have system level unit test. It has to cover all the features in terms of use cases, all the scenarios, and the boundary conditions of input and output. Okay? That's all we talk about in testing techniques in a simple way. If you do that, you at least provide the minimum software quality that we can expect from you. If you do more, say I'm going to use coverage, statement, branch, and def chain, and basic block, those things, that's bonus for us. Okay? That's bonus for us. But I mean, once you go to work, it may not be, maybe actually be required. So you know how to do it. But basically, you have to spend effort. This is effort, real effort, to make sure that your code is maintainable. This is easier to say than done. I mean, everybody's in a hurry, right? I need to go pick up my kid. I really want to get this checked in. You know what? This is the time I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. All right? If my check-in is gated by regression test suite, or gated by my colleague who refused to allow me to check in, they actually doing me a favor, keeping me from making mistakes and introduce new bugs, which may be really difficult to fix. Okay? So this is essentially, this code review process, regression tests, are the defenders of our quality, software quality. Okay? How do you construct your unit, your regression test suite? For every unit, no matter your unit really is an object, module, subsystems, systems, okay? Make sure that you apply the most basic testing techniques we have talked about, use case-based testing, so that you hit all the functionality that module, that unit is expected to provide, all the scenarios. And also make sure that you do your boundary analysis, equivalent input class, to make sure that you tried all the input classes, and also did a boundary check on all of them. If you have those things all in your regression test suite, I can expect that your software will be reasonable quality. If you don't have those tests, anybody's software is going to be questionable. Because even for the best programmer, 1,000 line of code, you have 3 or 4 bugs. Okay? Testing is pretty much practically our only way to find these bugs. Okay? So regression test suite is the key in maintenance. The moving target can be frustrating for development team. And so, however, with the agile processes, it's become less annoying. Because before, if you are doing waterfall, actually your requirement jobs are expected to have been finished, right? The process itself does not acknowledge